A blond man in a military uniform watches a castle burn, asking, "What do you think you're doing?" A man calls out Alfred as a bloodied, white-haired woman defiantly brandishes a dagger, declaring he won't get away with this. Alfred stands over his defeated foes, declaring he is no longer under their control and will rule everything. With a powerful slash, Alfred plunges his sword into darkness as blood splatters. Alfred stands with his bloody sword, his eyes described as dark, stagnant, and seeing into the abyss. The scene shifts to a woman in a blue blazer forcing a pained smile while holding a document. She defensively yells that she was only trying to point out a mistake. A man in a suit sighs, admitting she's good at sales but too direct, and a decision has been made. The man gives her a creepy, wide-toothed grin, telling her to take care of herself. Unseen co-workers gossip about a woman named Mochida being demoted for angering the higher-ups. The woman, Mochida, furiously vents at home, cursing her boss for firing her over a minor criticism. Overwhelmed by her own misfortune, Mochida breaks down and cries. She awakens to see a new reflection, a woman with long, white silver hair and a nightgown. The white-haired woman clutches her chest in panicked confusion. A maid mentions Lord Alfred, causing the woman to realize in horror that she knows the names Alfred and Maria. Seeing her reflection in her phone, she realizes she's been transported inside the novel she was just reading. The novel's story is introduced as the heroic tale of Prince Carlos, who grows to become a great king. But every story needs a villain, and this novel's is the blonde swordsman, Alfred Brown. Looking in a hand mirror, she confirms her terrible fate. She has reincarnated as the villain's stepmother. She panics as a maid, calling her Lady Maria, rushes to her side, offering to call a doctor. Maria stares in horror at a young boy, her stepson, realizing he is the one who will kill her. She tries to speak kindly to the boy, but finds herself suddenly unable to make a sound. As she collapses, the young boy, Alfred, looks terrified, while she panics internally, unable to speak. The woman lies on a sofa, completely overwhelmed by her situation. She has a horrifying vision of her future death at the hands of an adult Alfred. Memories of her past life's colleagues calling her a pain echo in her mind. A maid reassures her, saying her current feelings are natural for a newlywed. Realizing she is only recently married into this world, she looks at the young Alfred and understands she still has time. Maria resolves not to follow the story, downs a glass of water, and vows to survive. With a new determination, she decides to screw the original story. She clenches her jaw, filled with resolve. She declares she will do things her own way. As a maid helps her dress, she steels herself to manage somehow. The young boy Alfred gasps in fright. Maria approaches him with a terrifyingly forced smile, holding a note asking to talk. She trips on her elaborate dress while trying to approach the boy, who drops his toy. Alfred runs away as she reaches for him, leaving her to wonder why he fled. Picking up the dropped toy, she laments that he won't let her near while complaining about her tight dress. She recalls the plot. Maria is killed by Alfred on his 16th birthday, but his childhood is an unknown, dangerous blank. Spotting Alfred heading upstairs, she has an idea. She cautiously follows him up the stairs, but trips on her dress yet again. "Not again," she screams, tumbling down the stairs and cursing the impractical dresses. She crashes at the bottom, as a shocked Alfred looks on from above. Sprawled on the floor, Maria glares up at Alfred, who stands watching her. A handsome, elegantly dressed man with light brown hair walks into the hall. The staff lines up and bows as the man passes through the grand room. Maria, still on the floor, recognizes him as her ridiculously handsome husband, Zahar. A sly thought crosses her mind. Maybe reincarnating here won't be so bad after all. Zahar stands tall, looking down at his new wife collapsed on the floor. Zahar coldly calls her disgraceful as she looks up from the floor, stunned. She mentally fumes at the terrible man for not even offering to help her up. Fuming with anger, Maria rises to her feet as Zahar looks on. Zahar scolds Alfred for being 5 and still clinging to a stuffed animal. He lectures the boy on his future duty to the king, ordering him to sword training. Zahar grabs Alfred's hand and begins to pull the reluctant boy away. A flashback to her past life reveals she too just wanted to play. Pat. Maria suddenly intervenes, placing a hand on Alfred to stop him. Holding him protectively, she thinks the child clearly doesn't want to go. Zahar questions her actions, leaving her to fume over her inability to speak. She gestures frantically, while Zahar wonders if she seems reluctant about something. As Zahar leads Alfred away, the boy glances back at her sadly. A flashback shows a young boy happily thinking his mother gave him his power. But the happy thought sours as he concludes he doesn't need it. The standoff continues as Maria stands with Alfred, facing down Zahar. Powerless to stop them, she watches Zahar lead the dejected Alfred away. A flashback shows the original Maria arriving to meet Zahar and Alfred. The young Alfred looks up, wondering if this woman is his new mother. The original Maria announces it's an honor to become Zahar's wife. She embraces her new husband, stating that they're a married couple now. Whispering to a stoic Zahar, she suggests they have much to discuss. She then cheerfully greets Alfred, calling him a cute son. The original Maria happily tells the young boy she'll be in his care. Her pleasant demeanor shatters as she thinks, this one's a nuisance. The memory fades as Zahar and Alfred walk down the grand hall. Alfred looks back, wondering if Maria had seemed worried about him. Back in the present, Maria recalls the unpleasant memory with a headache. She remembers her own childhood, where her parents strictly controlled her life. Her father planned her life, believing marriage was a woman's greatest happiness. In a heated argument, her past self, Ri, refused marriage, enraging her father. Her mother cries out her name, Ri, as she stands her ground. Ri defiantly declares she will decide her own happiness. She left home with a suitcase that day and never looked back. The irony crushes her. She escaped one controlling man only to marry another. She fumes over Zahar's disappointing and infuriating attitude. She finds it ridiculous that a 5-year-old would even need swordsmanship. Resigned, she decides to shut up, since he told her to stay out of it. Zahar and Alfred stand in the training grounds, both holding practice swords. But unable to stay away, a disguised Maria watches from the sidelines. Peeking around a pillar, she wonders what on earth she's doing. She continues to watch as Zahar instructs a tiny Alfred. Still hiding, she admits her curiosity got the best of her and worries for Alfred. Alfred thinks to himself that he doesn't want to fight or get hurt. After Alfred falls, Zahar sternly tells him to stop dilly-dallying. With forced encouragement, Zahar watches Alfred strike the training dummy. He demands the boy swing faster, and Alfred struggles under the pressure, while Alfred cries out as the heavy sword slips from his small hands. Exhausted, the young boy collapses onto the dusty ground. Zahar criticizes his son's slow movements as the training continues. After Alfred falls yet again, Zahar coldly orders him to stand up. Maria runs towards Zahar and Alfred. She stands protectively before a frightened Alfred. Zahar challenges her to speak her mind. Zahar asks Maria if she has lost her voice. He questions her motives, leaving her silently fuming. Internally, she wonders if he's an idiot. A dark-haired man reports that his wife can no longer speak. He explains doctors don't know the cause and presents their note. The dark-haired man formally introduces himself to Maria. He states his name is Melio, Zahar's aide. Melio offers her a pen and paper to communicate. She writes, unable to explain she's been reincarnated. Thinking he doubts her, she writes a guess about Alfred. She speculates Alfred is upset over his strict father. She recalls her and Zahar share a common fate, death by Alfred. Zahar dismisses her as a nuisance, but she just gives a sinister smile. She mentally retracts her sympathy as Zahar storms off to save himself. Zahar walks away, suspicious of her sudden inability to speak. Melio suggests the doctor's note might validate her condition. Zahar dismisses it, ordering Melio to watch the famous villainess closely. Melio agrees, noting Zahar's unease, who calls it unavoidable. A flashback shows a king, revealing this was an arranged marriage. A maid enters a sullen Alfred's bedroom. Kaya, the maid screams. Seeing Alfred is covered in wounds, clutching his toy, Alfred quietly complains of pain. He sadly looks down at his scraped knees. Alfred looks up, shocked by a new presence. Maria arrives with a first aid kit, and he asks if she'll treat him. Ugh. He cries out in pain as she gently tends to him. Seeing his injuries, Maria resolves to treat him quickly. He cries that it hurts, but she promises to be fast. With a smile, she finishes cleaning his wounds. She reflects on the harsh training a 5-year-old is enduring. She's surprised to see him smile, noting his quick changing expressions. She carefully wraps a bandage around his knee. A memory reveals other children calling Alfred no fun. She ponders adjusting his training, getting Alfred's attention. The young boy stands up with a determined look. Really, he asks, hopefully, making her reconsider. His eyes fill with worry as he asks if she is leaving. A jolt of emotion strikes Maria. She's overwhelmed by how adorable his question was. As she leaves, she hopes he now sees she isn't scary. Alfred sits with his toy, wondering about her true nature. Zahar questions Melio, who admits to observing Maria and Alfred. Melio reports the pleasant atmosphere between the two. He adds that he saw Lord Alfred smile. PFFT. Melio chuckles at the like father, like son resemblance, irking Zahar. Zahar sternly warns his aide not to take her lightly. Melio recalls her notorious reputation for publicly shaming other ladies. An inquiry is made about the family of Marquis Dunn. Zahar recalls the king's order to find rebellion masterminds, noting he's been watching Maria, who feigns obedience and muteness. Maria admires the delicious-looking dinner, wondering if Alfred will be joining her. Her face falls in annoyance as she spots Zahar at the table. A tense silence fills the vast, empty space between them. They both sit awkwardly, contemplating the uncomfortable situation. Watching Zahar drink, Maria longs for a glass of wine herself. Her eyes widen in surprise at his seemingly thoughtful gesture. She happily enjoys a sip, praising the fine quality of the wine. Zahar observes her, commenting that she seems like a different person. He points out that she couldn't drink alcohol before, causing Maria to freeze. She looks at him in utter panic, questioning his statement. Leaning forward, Zahar intensely asks who she really is. I'm doomed, she thinks, realizing she never knew the original Maria couldn't drink. She internally panics, fearing this mistake will be her end. Zahar strokes his chin, pondering if she has a split personality. Thinking she's safe for now, Maria breathes a sigh of relief. She reflects on his sharp observation, realizing she knows little about the original Maria and must remain vigilant. Zahar rises from his seat, a new, more dangerous thought occurring to him. He leans over her and lifts her chin, asking if she's been replaced. Maria stares back, paralyzed with fear by his accurate guess. Zahar notes her silence, surprised she didn't even cry out. While she wonders about his plan, Zahar warns that whether she's a liar or an imposter, any trick will result in her death. He delivers a chilling ultimatum. I will kill you, telling her to tread carefully. She panics, realizing he might actually kill her in front of Alfred. Overwhelmed by suspicion, she realizes her life is in grave danger. She remembers reading that Maria's family was under surveillance for masterminding a rebellion. Feeling renewed, she can't believe the sweet boy Alfred is destined to kill her. While brushing her hair, she sees Alfred's reflection peeking from the doorway. She turns, noticing him watching her from behind the door. Clutching his stuffed toy, Alfred softly wishes her a good night. His unexpected kindness leaves her completely stunned. Alfred celebrates the success of his Operation Get Along, proud to be a good kid. Confused by his actions, Maria wonders if they are becoming closer. She collapses onto her bed, frustrated by her inability to understand either Zahar or Alfred. Lying awake, she reflects on how much she's worrying about others' thoughts. In her past life, she recalls, she would have confronted them immediately. The constant stress of her new life is driving her crazy. The sun rises over the mansion as she realizes she's fallen asleep. While she jolts awake with a start, she misses her old life, where she felt strong and capable. But in this moment, she is overcome with pure terror. She screams, utterly unable to deal with the small mouse on the floor. As the mouse simply stands there, she freezes, unable to even call for help. Alfred peeks out, urgently thinking she needs to run away from the danger. While Maria shrieks about the mouse, a confused Alfred wonders what's wrong. Tears in her eyes, she frantically points at the mouse for Alfred. He asks if she's scared, and she screams that she's terrified of them. Alfred gently coaxes the mouse, telling it not to bother Maria. He calmly scoops up the mouse, smiling sweetly. Maria tearfully thanks Alfred for his kindness. Holding a signed paper, she offers a heartfelt thank you. Hee hee. Alfred giggles shyly, delighted by her gratitude. Maria proposes they help each other out from now on. Alfred excitedly asks if this means they can be friends. Stunned, Maria thinks his request escalated very quickly. She happily agrees, giving him a cheerful okay sign. His eyes sparkle with joy as he asks, "Really?" Alfred beams, reaching up for a high five. They share a quiet moment, their new bond forming. The two begin their walk through the vast estate grounds. Alfred shyly explains he's always entering tag because he can't run fast. He earnestly declares his desire to learn how to run better. Looking up at her, he notes that she is very fast. Yay, Alfred celebrates as Maria agrees to help him. She watches him run, thinking he's painfully slow before they start training together. Suddenly, Alfred trips and goes flying, shocking Maria. Seeing his scraped knees, she decides they'll just have to practice. Maria ignites with fiery determination, vowing to train him hard. A wooden practice sword slams into the ground, marking the start of training. She reveals a tough, 3-step plan for building his strength and endurance. Alfred sweats, nervously wondering if he can do it. They begin their training, running together through the garden. Melio decides to go see what they're up to. While running up the stairs, Alfred's leg suddenly gives out. He loses his balance and starts to fall backward. Oh no. Maria lunges forward, realizing she won't reach him in time. Just in time, a pair of arms catches the falling boy. Alfred looks up to see Zahar as Maria sighs in relief. Zahar furiously accuses her of pushing his son. He warns her to stay away from Alfred from now on. His dark thoughts promise he won't be so forgiving next time. Fuming, Maria drinks wine and insists it was an accident. She collapses in despair, lamenting that she was only trying her best. Staring at her glass, she thinks that nothing has changed at all. A faint noise catches her attention as she sits alone. She looks over to see Alfred watching her from the doorway. While Maria apologizes, Alfred resolves not to give up on her. She realizes Zahar is the biggest obstacle to helping Alfred. A sudden realization strikes her as she forms a plan. Melio enters Zahar's office to announce a visitor. Dressed formally, Maria appears at the door with a request. She presents a written request for permission to train Alfred. She swears on the note that no danger will come to him. Maria proposes having a trusted guard supervise her time with Alfred. Zahar coldly states the problem would vanish if she just left. Alfred quietly steps forward into the tense room. The adults turn as Maria asks him what's wrong. Raising his hand, Alfred declares he has an announcement. He stands bravely before them, ready to speak his mind. Alfred passionately defends Maria, insisting she's not a bad person. He then proudly declares that he and Maria are friends. Alfred reflects that friends should help each other with their troubles. He looks up at her, earnestly asking her to teach him how to run. Maria presents her proposal. A trusted supervisor can watch them train. Zahar scoffs at the idea, asking who she expects to do that. As arrows of logic point to Zahar, Maria realizes the horrifying implication. Alfred cheerfully volunteers his dad for the job, shocking Zahar. Grudgingly supervising, Zahar complains that he has no time for silly games. Alfred retorts that it's not silly. It's a fun way to build balance. Maria smugly thinks that it's a legitimate modern training method. She doubts he would understand as Zahar continues to watch in silence. Fed up, Zahar tells Melio to take over and keep an eye on his son. He announces his return to work and promptly walks away. Seeing Alfred's crestfallen face, Maria wonders why Zahar is so bothered. Alfred's spirit sinks as he fears his father truly dislikes him. He shakes off his sadness and continues his running practice. Maria wonders if there's a deeper reason for Zahar's strictness. Huff, huff, Alfred pants, exhausted from the vigorous training session. They take a relaxing break with tea and snacks on a picnic blanket. Maria kindly pours a cup of tea for the tired boy. Melio suddenly interrupts to inspect the teapot, making Maria instantly suspicious. Alfred innocently explains that it's rosemary tea to help with fatigue. Thinking a maid prepared it, Maria questions her past as a villainess. Alfred repeats to Melio that the tea contains rosemary. Maria is stunned, wondering how on earth he knew that. Melio beams, praising the madam's stylish and thoughtful choice of tea. He pours a cup, declaring it will surely relieve their fatigue. Writing on her notepad, Maria asks Alfred how he knew about the rosemary. For a moment, she wonders if he can read her thoughts. Relieved, Maria dismisses the absurd idea of magical mind reading. The scene shifts as she reflects on a sudden invitation. She feels a wave of anxiety, nervous about her very first ball. Dressed in a magnificent red gown, she stands ready for the evening. Wow. A formally dressed Alfred gasps that Maria looks beautiful. Zahar, looking equally formal, asks if they are ready to depart. The family sets off together for the royal party. Inside the palace, a grand and elegant ball is in full swing. They walk toward the main entrance, which is flanked by royal guards. Zahar sternly orders her to behave, and she smirks at the pointless warning. She takes in the stunning sight of the royal palace's throne room. Awed by the breathtaking view, she follows Zahar to greet the king. On the thrones sit the red-haired king and a young boy beside him. The boy is identified as the young and confident Prince Carlos. The family stands before the throne, offering their formal greetings. The king asks about her marriage, making small talk while keenly observing her. Zahar explains that his wife has unfortunately lost her voice to an illness. As the king offers polite advice, she studies the men who arranged her marriage. The king then addresses Alfred, who shyly hides behind Maria's dress. Zahar scolds Alfred for being rude, but the king reassures him it's fine. Maria places a gentle, comforting hand on a concerned Alfred's shoulder. The young, red-haired Prince Carlos brightly greets Zahar, exclaiming how much he's missed him. Carlos eagerly asks Zahar to teach him tactics again, and Zahar warmly agrees. The king notes Carlos's fondness for Zahar and suggests he play with Alfred instead. While Alfred offers a sweet smile, Prince Carlos glares with obvious annoyance. The king expects the boys to get along, but Carlos just stares down a confused Alfred. Encouraged by his father to go play, Prince Carlos reluctantly agrees. Prince Carlos turns and curtly tells Alfred to follow him. Alfred agrees and follows him out to a beautiful garden where other children are playing tag. Surrounded by the other children, Alfred proudly announces that he has been training. With a cheerful, "Here I go," Prince Carlos dashes forward to start the game. Another boy quickly tags Carlos, smugly declaring him it. "Gotcha!" Alfred surprises the boy by tagging him back, proudly asking if he's gotten faster. He excitedly demonstrates his new one-footed hop, asking the others if it's amazing. Ugh. As Prince Carlos watches in frustration, Alfred suddenly trips and tumbles to the ground. Prince Carlos extends a hand, kindly asking the fallen Alfred if he's okay. Taking his hand, Alfred tearfully declares, "I hate you so much," shocking Prince Carlos. Back in the present, Maria feels a wave of nerves after greeting the king and prince. Zahar takes Maria's arm, leading her through the grand ballroom. He reminds her she can't speak and must stay by his side, making her wonder if he's worried. As he calls her Lady Maria, she thinks it almost feels like they're a real married couple. Zahar bluntly says he hates it too, confirming to Maria that he's the worst. The couple stands together, linked arm in arm in a formal pose. Other party guests gossip in the shadows about the notorious newlyweds and their arranged marriage. Maria glares at the whispering nobles, thinking that she can clearly hear them. Suddenly, a group of young ladies eagerly calls out her name. 3 smiling noblewomen appear, framed by an illusion of pink roses. One exclaims she was sad not to have seen Maria lately, leaving Maria utterly baffled. The ladies surround the pair, congratulating them on their marriage and gushing about how well they suit each other. Zahar questions what's happening while Maria thinks she has no idea either. The enthusiastic ladies continue to agree amongst themselves, adding to Maria's confusion. Overwhelmed, Zahar quickly excuses himself to attend to something. Maria fumes as he flees, thinking he's a hypocrite for telling her to stay by his side. The ladies immediately turn their attention to Maria's gorgeous jewels, wishing they had some too. The 3 women nod in enthusiastic agreement. Maria has a sudden, horrifying thought. Are they after her jewels? The ladies' faces turn greedy as they demand the jewels, and Maria thinks this is ridiculous. She walks away, annoyed that the swarming women are being such a pain. Watching her from afar, Zahar notes that she truly seems like a different person now. The king raises his hand, joyfully announcing it's time to enjoy the evening's festivities. The grand ballroom comes alive as couples begin to waltz across the dance floor. The king approaches a brooding Zahar and orders him to go dance with his wife. Zahar bows his head, reluctantly accepting the king's command. He approaches Maria as she stands alone, sipping a glass of wine. Zahar offers his hand for a dance, but she flatly rejects him with a firm, "No thanks." Citing the king's order, he firmly takes her arm and leads her onto the dance floor. The two stand awkwardly together, preparing to begin the waltz. Zahar insults her dancing skills, remarking that she's not as impressive as he'd heard. Infuriated by his jab, she recalls her extensive dance training and resolves to show him just how wrong he is. Maria forcefully seizes the lead, twirling Zahar in the dance. Zahar orders her not to act without permission, but she thinks he's not her boss. He demands she follow his lead, but she silently refuses to obey. Despite their bickering, they perform a surprisingly elegant dance together. Onlookers whisper amongst themselves that the couple's dance is quite intense. Zahar comments that they don't get along, and Maria mentally agrees. Wah! She deliberately stomps on his foot with her heel. With Zahara reeling in pain, she smirks and bids him farewell. She walks away, leaving him to nurse his foot and his pride. A flashback reveals Prince Carlos on the ground while guards check on him. Disturbed, Maria sees a distraught Alfred and realizes the memory is about him. The flashback continues as Prince Carlos kindly asks Alfred if he's okay. Other children watch as Prince Carlos offers a hand to help Alfred up. Crying, Alfred shouts that he hates him and that everyone hates him. The prince looks on, confused by the sudden outburst after his kind gesture. Prince Carlos cruelly insults Alfred, calling him useless like his dead mother. The cruel words about his mother leave Alfred utterly shocked and hurt. Enraged, Alfred slaps the prince's hand away, defending his mother's honor. The force of the shove sends Prince Carlos stumbling backward onto the ground. Prince Carlos furiously demands to know what Alfred is doing. In front of the guards, the prince angrily shouts about being rudely brushed off. Still on the ground, he continues to yell, asking Alfred what his problem is. The prince's venomous words about his mother echo in Alfred's mind. Alfred kneels in the garden, tears streaming down his face. Back in the present, Maria rushes toward the commotion, calling Alfred's name. She finds the crying boy and worriedly asks what's wrong. Overcome with emotion, Alfred rushes into her arms and hugs her tightly. Prince Carlos claims Alfred shoved him after he offered help, and another child agrees it's Alfred's fault, leaving Maria to ponder the truth. Ah! Alfred suddenly pulls away from Maria and runs off into the gardens. He feels as though he's drowning, thinking no one understands his pain. He sits alone and dejected by a large fountain in the evening gloom. His lonely thoughts echo his despair, certain no one understands his feelings. As rain begins to fall, an umbrella appears over Alfred, held by a concerned Maria. She comforts him, saying he must have a reason and doesn't have to explain. Maria gently reassures the sad boy that she is always on his side. Alfred confesses through his tears that he let go because he didn't like what the prince said. Using her notepad, Maria calmly asks Alfred what he wants to do. After a moment of thought, Alfred quietly decides that he wants to apologize. Maria embraces him tightly as the scene transitions to a beautiful starry night. Standing before Prince Carlos, Alfred bows his head and offers a sincere apology. He then proudly declares that his mother is amazing too, just like his father. Prince Carlos simply replies, "Oh," and tells him to work hard. The prince looks away, flustered and confused by Alfred's earnest declaration. From behind them, Zahar watches the scene with a look of cold fury. Zahar angrily approaches, demanding to know what his son is doing. He towers over Alfred, repeating his furious question as the boy flinches. Maria quickly steps between them, shielding Alfred from his father's anger. Zahar dismisses Maria, stating he doesn't have time to deal with her. He turns his icy glare back to Alfred, demanding why he pushed the prince. Alfred trembles in fear, unable to answer his father's intimidating question. Zahar apologizes profusely to the prince, promising to scold his son for his insolence. Thanking the prince for his consideration, Zahar announces his family will be leaving. The scene fades into a sparkly haze, marking a transition. Thump! Alfred is thrown harshly onto a stone floor. Zahar coldly tells Alfred he lacks a sense of his position and orders him to stay and reflect. A crying Alfred reaches out, pleading with his father that he's sorry. Slam! Zahar locks the boy in the dark room without another word. Maria watches Zahar walk away down the hall, prevented from following by a servant. She glares after him with a look of pure, unadulterated fury. The couple stands back to back, a tense and silent rift between them. Maria reasons that Alfred must have had a motive and is determined to find it out. Locked in the dark, Alfred is surprised to see Maria's face in the window. She passes a bag through the bars, and he asks if she brought him bread. Standing on a chair, the starving boy gratefully reaches for the food and thanks her. Alfred tells Maria she shouldn't be there and urges her to go sleep in her room. He gasps in sudden shock, his hands flying to his mouth. The bag of bread slips from his grasp and falls to the floor. As Alfred stares up at Maria, he wonders if she can somehow read his thoughts. Maria is baffled, thinking it's impossible since she hadn't even spoken. They both look stunned, with Maria wondering what's happening and Alfred fearing he's been caught. Alfred nervously says he had a feeling she would come, while a frantic Maria thinks he knows her thoughts. He quietly ponders the strange ability to read other people's minds. Maria considers that while it seems impossible, she can somehow believe it. In a flashback, a younger Maria and Alfred have tea, and a man notes it contains rosemary. I knew it. Maria realizes with certainty that Alfred truly possesses a special power. After he denies it, Maria shows him a note, asking if his actions relate to Prince Carlos. She watches his reaction, concluding that he's definitely being cautious. Alfred nervously fumbles with the note she passed him through the bars. We're friends, aren't we? Friends? Maria promises she won't tell anyone about his secret. Reaching through the bars, they lock their pinkies together in a promise. She smiles warmly, assuring him he can trust her and that she'll never betray him. A tear rolls down Alfred's cheek as he holds her hand. Maria offers him a gentle, reassuring smile. Overcome with emotion, Alfred breaks down and begins to sob. Maria reflects on the heavy burden he's been carrying all alone. Alfred confesses that he can hear people's inner voices when he touches them. Unafraid, she simply asks why he pushed Prince Carlos. He explains that after falling, he touched the prince's hand and heard his thoughts of hatred. Sobbing, he reveals that because of him, Prince Carlos made fun of his late mother. He cries that the insult is true, even though his mother is gone. So that's the reason. Maria looks down with sad understanding. Alfred declares his goal to become a great person, to prove how amazing his mother was. Maria smiles warmly, agreeing and promising to cheer him on. Alfred beams with joy, exclaiming how happy he is to be friends with Maria. He happily waves goodbye and she smiles back from the window. As Maria turns to leave, Zahar's shoes appear at the edge of the frame. She turns to see Zahar standing silently in the dark corridor, holding a lantern. Illuminated by the lantern's glow, Maria looks up at him in absolute shock. Zahar confronts Maria in a stone corridor, demanding to know what she's doing. Startled, she calls out his name in surprise. He looks at her sternly, commenting on her expression. Annoyed, she thinks how rude he is to say that to a woman. Suspicious, he asks what she's plotting this time. Ah, she stammers as Alfred peeks out from behind a wooden door. Zahar stares down at her with a cold, unimpressed gaze. She laments that her plan to help Alfred, without Zahar knowing, has failed. Pondering for a moment, she thinks about Zahar. She remembers Alfred's plea not to tell his father about his power and understands the situation. Whispering to Alfred, she tells him they're proceeding with their plan, and he agrees. Zahar demands to know what they're whispering about, prompting Alfred to suddenly apologize. Alfred shouts that he has reflected on his actions. Zahar seems to accept the apology and unlocks the door. Opening the door, he tells Alfred he can come out now. He sternly warns Alfred never to be insolent towards His Highness again. Maria glares, annoyed by his harshness towards the sad Alfred. A tense standoff begins between Maria and Zahar. Thinking he doesn't understand Alfred's pain, Zahara asks if she has a complaint. Thinking, of course I do. She furiously begins writing on a piece of paper. She angrily presents the note, declaring that Prince Carlos tripped Alfred first. Zahar dismisses her argument, stating that as servants to the royal family, they cannot retaliate. A dejected Alfred feels pitiful, wishing his father would care for him without worrying about status. Zahar coldly tells Maria not to interfere with Alfred's upbringing. Defiantly shaking her head, Maria shouts, "No." Maria vows she will never back down, while Alfred frets about how to calm them. To distract them, Alfred points to the window, exclaiming the moon is smiling. Both adults are confused by his sudden outburst. They look at each other, both thinking it doesn't look like that at all. The fight draining out of her, Maria resigns herself to never seeing eye to eye with him. Alfred sweetly reaches up to take Maria's hand. He beams up at her and happily agrees. As Maria leads Alfred away, Zahar watches them go. He quietly wonders when she and Alfred started holding hands. Later, a man with black hair notes that Zahar had planned to punish Alfred until morning. He watches Zahar pace anxiously, thinking how clumsy he is. A grand estate is shown as a summons arrives from Marquis Dane. Zahar reads the letter with a serious expression. A horse-drawn carriage makes its way through a forest. Whoa! Alfred peers excitedly from the carriage window. Traveling together, Alfred marvels at the pretty scenery. Zahar gently tells his son not to lean out of the window. Alfred obediently sits back down next to a smiling Maria. He joyfully exclaims that he's excited for their first outing together. Maria watches him with a warm, fond smile. Her mood sours as she thinks she can't enjoy the trip at all. Recalling 3 older relatives, she dreads visiting her family's estate with its bad reputation. Zahar reads a book, noting the Brown family has a contentious history with them. Arriving at a foreboding mansion, Zahar suggests they head inside. The 3 of them walk through a grand, empty hall. A smiling, white-haired man welcomes guests. The blonde man politely greets him, glad he is well. The white-haired man smiles knowingly. He internally wonders about Maria and Zahar getting along. The white-haired man invites them all to sit and chat. Alfred clings to Maria, finding the man unpleasant. A thought box notes the father and son's strained relationship. The group sits in an opulent room from an overhead view. Maria holds a note explaining she cannot speak. The white-haired man laughs. Surprised Maria is mute, he apologizes to Zahar for his daughter being a bother. The white-haired man asks Zahar to care for his beloved daughter. Maria internally rages at being called beloved daughter after being a hostage. Zahar observes Maria with a serious expression. Zahar asserts Maria is not a bother. Zahar explains Maria simply cannot speak. The white-haired man then asks Zahar for a small favor. He requests Zahar's wisdom on expanding mining, needing the king's permission. Maria silently ponders the white-haired man's hidden intentions regarding Zahar and the king. The white-haired man clarifies he doesn't need an immediate answer. He suggests Zahar tour the mining site while Zahar considers the country's industry. The white-haired man excitedly praises Zahar for his brilliance. He then reveals a sinister grin, anticipating a child from Zahar and Maria. Maria angrily thinks the old man is a sly fox for saying that with Alfred present. The white-haired man asks Alfred if he's lonely. Maria fiercely pulls Alfred into a protective embrace. Maria declares she is perfectly fine with Alfred by her side. The white-haired man mockingly asks if Alfred also can't speak. Zahar clarifies that Alfred only speaks to trusted individuals. The group continues their strained conversation in the grand room. The white-haired man, smiling, offers to buy Alfred something. He asks Alfred directly what he wants, frightening the boy. A young, white-haired man, Daniel, arrives and tells his father to stop. Daniel stands tall, looking elegant in his green vest. Daniel smiles, stating his father is making Alfred uncomfortable, then kneels. Daniel kneels and apologizes to Alfred for scaring him. Daniel formally invites Duke Brown and young Alfred to dinner. Everyone is seated at a large, opulent dining table. Maria observes Daniel, recognizing him as her brother and finding him surprisingly normal. A sumptuous grilled steak is presented on a decorative plate. Alfred joyfully eats, declaring it delicious, and Daniel is pleased. Maria and Alfred quietly enjoy their dinner. An older woman, Maria's mother, criticizes Maria for her lack of jewels. Maria's mother continues to scold her for lacking energy and speech, surprising Maria. Maria considers visiting the mine, recalling her previous life's experience. Maria asks Alfred if he'll be all right alone as she plans to visit the mine. Alfred thinks he wants to accompany Maria wherever she goes. Alfred tells Zahar he wants to visit the mine, and Zahar agrees to go with him. Alfred, Zahar, and Maria happily agree to all go to the mine together. A white-haired man dismisses Maria's interest in mines, recalling she dislikes getting dirty. Maria surprisingly declares she's going, prompting the white-haired man to muse that she's really changed. A horse-drawn carriage travels through a vast, mountainous region. Inside the carriage, the white-haired man tells Alfred they'll be seeing their destination soon. Alfred and Maria marvel at the majestic Baltz mine, the nation's primary source of income. The group, including a blonde man, arrives and walks through the mining town. Maria picks up a dark stone from the ground, wondering if it could be tin. She recalls that finding tin in silver mines could significantly boost the national profit. Holding the stone, Maria glances thoughtfully toward the two men walking ahead. Alfred finds a similar stone and decides to show it to Maria, thinking it might be valuable. Alfred excitedly presents his discovery to the blonde man and the white-haired man. The blonde man examines the ore, agreeing it's unusual. Dismissing it as not silver, the white-haired man casually tosses the stone away, disappointing Alfred. Maria looks on with concern, wondering what to do as the men speak with a local. Suddenly, Alfred announces he's found another shiny stone and runs off toward a thicket. Maria frantically calls for him to wait. As Maria gives chase, a worker shouts a warning that the cave ahead is dangerous. The blonde man grabs a lantern from the worker and rushes after them. The three run into a dark, steep cave as Maria pleads for Alfred to come back. Whoa! The cave suddenly begins to shake and crumble. Alfred freezes in fear as the tremors intensify. Maria looks up in terror, realizing it might be an earthquake. Panicking in the darkness, she hears someone call her name. Zahar catches Maria, holding her close and asking if she's all right as the cave collapses. Shaken, Maria realizes with a start that Zahar saved her. Her relief turns to panic as she has a sudden, terrible thought. Where is Alfred? She frantically searches for the boy, who has run deeper into the cave. Fearing he's lost, she watches Zahar press on, ignoring a fresh wound on his arm. Maria rushes to Zahar's side, pointing to his injury and asking if he's hurt. Zahar insists he's fine, his focus solely on finding Alfred. Worried sick, Maria clasps her hands and prays for Alfred's safety. A small voice calls out from the darkness, and Zahar rushes forward, asking if Alfred is okay. Alfred replies uncertainly that he isn't hurt. Maybe. Zahar pulls Alfred into a protective embrace while Maria looks on. Zahar realizes a rockfall has blocked their way out. He tells Maria to wait there as he prepares to clear a path. As he reaches up to climb the rubble, Maria gasps at his bleeding arm. She quickly stops him, and he questions what she's doing. Maria rips a piece of her own sleeve to use as a makeshift bandage. She carefully ties the bandage around his arm, saying it's better than nothing. Zahar looks at his bandaged arm and quietly thanks her. Zahar begins climbing the treacherous pile of rocks as Maria lights his way with the lantern. Reaching the top, he desperately calls out for Alfred. Alfred spots his father from the other side and calls back to him. Zahar reaches his son, pulling him into a relieved hug and promising he's safe now. Holding Alfred, Zahar instructs him to climb over the rocks first. Zahar carefully helps his son navigate the unstable rockfall. Alfred peeks over the rocks and calls out to Maria, who sighs in relief. Just as she thinks he's safe, a sudden aftershock rocks the cave. Maria screams Alfred's name in terror as the ground trembles again. Maria desperately reaches out, urging someone to jump and promising to catch them. Trusting her, Alfred leaps from the rocks into her waiting arms. She catches him, holding him in a tight, relieved embrace. Maria holds Alfred by the shoulders, frantically asking if he's all right. He reassures her he's fine, then points out in wonder that she just called his name. Stunned, Maria touches her throat, realizing her voice has returned in her desperation. Zahar observes, her voice is back. She confirms it, thinking her fear for Alfred was the cause. Smiling with relief, Maria gently cups Alfred's cheek. Alfred cheers, overjoyed that her voice has returned. The two share a bright, laughing hug, celebrating the happy moment. A rumble echoes as rescuers break through the rockfall. Maria tearfully realizes they're finally safe. The scene shifts to a grand mansion under a starry night sky. Alfred sleeps soundly in his bed, stretching in his dreams. Maria gently tucks him in, telling him he did well that day. Pat. She softly closes the door, wishing him a good night. A soft knock sounds on a different, more ornate door. Maria announces herself at the door, asking to come in. A voice grants her permission. Peeking inside, she finds Zahar sitting by the balcony. He asks what's wrong. Maria holds up a first aid kit, reminding him that he's injured. Zahar dismisses her concern, saying he can wait, while a chibi Maria looks annoyed. Taking charge, she firmly pats the spot next to her, ordering him to sit down. Zahar sits awkwardly on the bed while a composed Maria prepares the first aid kit. She flashes back to treating Alfred's scraped knee as he cried. Thinking with a fond smile, she notes Zahar is just like Alfred, hating to be treated for injuries. Maria looks at him seriously and asks him to show her his injured shoulder. A close-up of his chest makes her tell herself to focus on the task at hand. Seeing the severe bruising on his back, she apologizes, blaming herself, but he insists it was his decision. He reassures her, adding that the first aid she gave him in the cave was a great help. She smiles, glad she could help, as he tells her he's alive thanks to her. In a cute chibi moment, she tends to his back as he downplays the injury. Zahar quietly admits he couldn't bear it if anything had happened to Alfred. With a gentle expression, Maria agrees that she feels the same way. As she prepares a compress, she hesitates. Zahar asks her what's on her mind. She confesses that back at the staircase, she had assumed he was the one who pushed Alfred. Zahar remains still and silent as she continues to treat his bruised back. Ugh, he winces as she presses the compress to his skin. She cheekily tells him that's enough for now. They share a moment, looking at each other with warm smiles. The next day, the white-haired man sees them off, apologizing for the ordeal they endured. Zahar expresses his gratitude for the rescue, while the man calls the return of Maria's voice a miracle. He observes that marriage has really changed Maria. He adds that she's like a completely different person now. As they depart, Zahar vows to never visit Maria's family again. Just as they are about to leave, a man in a green coat rushes toward them, calling for Lord Zahar. The man apologizes for the interruption, and a concerned Zahar asks what is wrong. He reports that a diplomatic ship carrying silver has capsized in a storm. Zahar, Maria, and Alfred listen to the news with expressions of shock and disbelief. A report confirms a ship carrying diplomatic silver capsized, leaving Zahar in shock. Zahar asks about the crew, and the man reports that everyone survived. However, he adds grimly, the massive cargo of silver has vanished into the sea. Zahar realizes they must urgently find a replacement for the lost silver. Understanding this is a diplomatic crisis, he tells Maria he's leaving for the palace immediately. She protests that he just arrived, but he insists it's urgent and asks her to care for Alfred. Maria looks on with deep concern as he prepares to leave again. With a hand on Alfred's back, she watches Zahar's carriage depart down the long drive. Inside, Maria sighs with exhaustion while Alfred sits quietly beside her. A worried Alfred asks if his father will be okay and what he can do to help. She comforts the boy on her lap, saying they can only wait. Alfred clenches his fist, still troubled as he rests his head on her lap. Rumble. His stomach growls, and he laughs sheepishly to break the tension. Maria tickles him playfully, and he bursts into laughter. She finds him utterly adorable. She gently strokes his hair as he looks up at her with a sweet, blushing face. He asks if he's really special to her, and she warmly confirms he is. She elaborates, telling him he possesses an incredible gift. Recalling her words, a thoughtful chibi Maria decides to ask him more about it. Alfred sits up eagerly, ready to answer her questions. Maria realizes he inherited his mind-reading ability from his mother, a power that could be easily abused. She explains to a surprised Alfred that his power has a bad side too. He recalls hearing cruel, hateful thoughts from others wishing he would just disappear. He tearfully confesses that's why he avoids getting close to people. Her heart aches for him as she whispers that his experience must be awful. But Alfred hugs her joyfully, explaining his power also let him get closer to her. Overwhelmed by his sweetness, she hugs him back tightly as he wishes his dad could rest. Holding him close, Maria agrees that she wishes the same. Her thoughts drift to the sunken silver, recalling the capsized ship. Ah, a sudden realization strikes her with a flash of inspiration. Clutching a handkerchief, she looks ahead with newfound determination. In the library, Alfred is amazed by the number of books, certain they'll find an answer. Maria gasps, having found exactly what she was looking for in a large tome. Examining the dark stone, she triumphantly identifies it as tin. Yay! Alfred celebrates their discovery while Maria sits with a serious expression. Shush! She playfully quiets his excited cheers. The scene shifts to the grand exterior of the dying estate. A man with dark hair greets her, asking where she's been. She asks if Zahar has returned. When she mentions the shipwreck, the man thinks to himself how sharp she is. Swish! He deflects her question, leaving Alfred in her care as he departs. She finds Zahar in his study, but he dismisses her, saying he's too busy to talk. Undeterred, she presents the stone from the mine, insisting he look at her discovery. Maria holds the ore and declares with absolute certainty that it is tin. Zahar is stunned as she explains, tin is abundant at the mine and just as valuable as silver. She passionately lists its uses, noting it's more malleable than silver. She continues, praising its rust-proof qualities and ease of manufacturing. He muses over the untapped potential, as she insists this could become a major industry. Zahar looks at her, impressed and curious, asking how she knows all this. Oops! Caught in her excitement, Maria laughs nervously, at a loss for words. A tiny, expressive Maria lectures a stone-faced Zahar. Zahar reflects that he and everyone else had the wrong idea about her. He looks at her with a new, warm smile of admiration. Maria laughs, telling him not to underestimate her while hiding her past life knowledge. Zahar admits she's been surprising him lately, constantly exceeding his expectations. Maria asks if the blonde man's comment was a compliment, and he confirms it was. Zahar sits at his desk, lamenting that a diplomatic gift was lost, and he must find an alternative. Maria excitedly presents a piece of silvery ore, declaring that her idea will work. The blonde man, Daniel, decides to write to his brother, sure his family will respond quickly. Daniel smiles warmly, expressing his appreciation as he examines the ore. Maria winks, reminding him that he saved her in the cave. Wah! As books topple over, Maria loses her balance, and Daniel shouts her name in alarm. He catches her, holding her securely as she looks up at him, flustered. Blushing furiously, Maria thinks he's far too close with his hand on her waist. She brusquely thanks him for the save, and announces she's leaving. Watching her storm off, a slightly bewildered Daniel simply says, okay. He thinks to himself that he meant healthy and was only trying to be polite. He thoughtfully recalls the moment he caught her in his arms. A bouquet of yellow sunflowers marks a transition in the scene. In a grand room, Daniel presents a box to an older woman as another man looks on. The older woman opens the box to reveal two beautiful silver goblets, calling them beautiful. She tells Daniel she wants one for herself, and he expresses his gladness. The man in green informs Maria that Zahar gave her credit for the idea to His Majesty. Maria deflects the praise, claiming she only shared knowledge and is wary of fame's backlash. Daniel reminds her that she was the one who suggested using the material for diplomacy. He tells her she's not the villain people claim, but is genuinely concerned for the country. His unexpected praise leaves her speechless and blushing. A bright, happy smile spreads across her face as she's overcome with joy. She thinks she's closer to her death flag, then sees his usual stern face and stifles a giggle. She sighs, thinking she still has a long way to go, which confuses Daniel. Ahem. A man presents the wine glasses, explaining they're a popular design due to the tin being rust-resistant. The group sits together at a long table, discussing the matter. Maria smiles politely, saying she's glad to hear the proposal is well received. A quiet, somber moment focuses on Maria from behind. She nervously brings up the topic of her home. With a worried expression, she asks Daniel if her father has said anything. She asks about Mr. Dunn, wondering if the incident has troubled the king. Daniel reassures her that since the tin came from Dunland, her family's profits were increased. Daniel maintains a serious expression as he sits at the table. Maria breathes a sigh of relief, finding his words reassuring. Her weary, pensive reflection stares back at her from the surface of a goblet. The man in green notes his surprise at how she spoke about her father. Maria stands abruptly, deciding to end the conversation for now. She turns away from the table with a bright, cheerful smile. Back at her desk, she reads a letter, feeling thankful that Daniel was there. She thinks it's a miracle that a decent person actually exists in the Dunn family. She looks out her window and is shocked to see Alfred walking into the woods alone. Alfred continues his solitary walk deeper into the forest. A sudden thought strikes Maria as she sits at her desk. Looking out the window at the gloomy sky, she comments on the terrible weather. Bam-A maid bursts into the room, panting as she apologizes for the intrusion. Maria immediately stands and asks the maid if she has seen Lord Alfred. The maid confirms he's missing, and Maria recalls seeing him walk into the storm, a look of dread on her face. Zahar appears, skeptically questioning if the boy would really be out in the storm. Maria frantically tells Zahar she saw Alfred walking towards the forest. Zahar asks why, but she only has a bad feeling that something is there. A man runs in, reporting to Lord Zahar that there's no sign of Alfred. Zahar clenches his fist, but Maria insists on going with him into the danger. He declares that as Alfred's father, it is his duty to go. In the pouring rain, Zahar tells Maria to stay behind him for protection. A hand points through the storm, shouting that they found him behind a tree. They spot Alfred huddled alone in the rain, crying as he clutches something. Alfred looks up from the ground, recognizing his father and Maria. Zahar and Maria rush to him, angrily asking what he was thinking. Crying, Alfred explains he was protecting a kitten, but his father yells it doesn't matter. Zahar sternly orders his son to leave the cat and come home now. Alfred defiantly shouts, "No!" and clutches the kitten tighter, crying it will die otherwise. Maria kneels beside him, gently patting his head and saying they'll take the cat home. Through his tears, a hopeful Alfred asks if the kitten can come too. She offers a kind, reassuring smile and says, yes. Back inside, Maria commands the maids to prepare a bath for Alfred immediately. She tells Alfred to warm up, but he anxiously asks if she'll abandon the cat. Maria smiles warmly, promising him that she won't. Alfred is escorted away by two maids as Maria watches, holding the kitten. While gently washing the kitten, Maria tells it that Alfred is its angel. Zahar approaches from behind, ordering her to throw the stray cat out immediately. Maria turns, firmly refusing because she made a promise to Alfred. Zahar insists he is the head of the house, but she pleads, reminding him how much it means to Alfred. She declares she'll take full responsibility for the cat, staring him down. Zahar turns and walks away in silence, and Maria quietly thanks him. The scene transitions to a quiet, ornate sitting room. Cough. Alfred lies in bed, flushed and sweating with a high fever. Maria sits by his side with the kitten, asking if he's okay. He weakly asks about the kitten, and she holds it up to show him. She assures him the kitten is fine, and that he can rest, which brings a small smile to his face. Maria looks on with a relieved and gentle expression. Zahar appears at the doorway, quietly asking if Alfred is asleep. She confirms he is, exhausted from the cold, and Zahar nods in understanding. He sits on the bed, muttering about Alfred's foolish stunt. Zahar gently checks his son's temperature, relieved the fever isn't too high. A rare, gentle smile appears on Zahar's face as Maria watches contentedly. Suddenly, the kitten leaps from Maria's arms onto Zahar's lap. Whoa! Zahar jumps in surprise, frantically telling the cat to get off. He begs for help, but Maria just smiles, realizing he may have a kind side after all. Holding the kitten, she tells Zahar she'd like to get to know him better. She invites him to talk, and he looks at her with a serious expression. She repeats her desire to know more about him while holding the small white cat. With a gentle smile, she again asks if he'd like to talk for a bit. They sit across from each other while Alfred and the kitten sleep peacefully nearby. Zahar stoically asks what she wants to discuss. Maria nervously asks why he is so strict with Alfred. She argues that he's only 5, but Zahar interrupts, stating that is precisely the reason. A tense silence falls between them in the grand room. A flashback reveals Zahar brutally striking a young Alfred with a wooden sword during training. In a flashback, a young boy proudly tells his father he succeeded. His father coldly tells him not to get so happy over something trivial. Declaring the boy has no talent, his words crush the child who meekly apologizes. In the present, Zahar reflects on the past with a somber expression. He remembers feeling lonely as his father turned and walked away from him. Maria thinks she's one to talk, recalling her own past intentions to be tough on him. As Zahar despairs, Maria watches, realizing his harshness stems from remembering his father's death, and believing no training is ever enough to prevent loss. Zahar whispers that he's already lost enough in his life. She looks at him with sudden understanding, realizing Zahar also lost his wife. She reassures Zahar that Alfred is growing up to be a good child, and that his methods might not be wrong after all. Maria smiles warmly, thinking that Alfred's mother must have been a truly wonderful person. Cough. A flustered Zahar quickly says it's nothing, blushing slightly. He remarks that she has changed so much she is like a different person, recalling her infamous reputation as a villainess, which makes her grimace. Later, Alfred sleeps soundly in his grand bed. He sits up in bed, calling out for someone to listen to him. He joyfully declares that he and Maria are friends, as his father looks on with a smile. Zahar observes that his son has been talking much more than before. Maria listens to his words with a gentle, knowing blush. Zahar works late into the night at his desk, reviewing documents. He pauses his work, thoughtfully adjusting his glasses. He removes his glasses, rubbing his tired eyes with a sigh. Maria bursts through the doors, calling Zahar's name and declaring that it's urgent. He looks up from his desk, a bit surprised by her sudden entrance. The scene shifts to a bright, festive day on a bustling city street. Wow! Alfred runs ahead, amazed by all the shops, as a man calls for him not to go off alone. Zahar asks Maria why she suddenly wanted to come to town, suspecting something must have gone wrong. He leans in, asking if it's that obvious. She puts a finger to her lips, brightly announcing they came to buy presents. Having finished decorating a magnificent tree, Maria steps back to admire her work as Alfred watches in awe. Alfred runs toward her with a small white kitten, exclaiming that the tree is amazing. He asks if he can help decorate, and she warmly agrees. He joyfully hangs an ornament, telling his new cat, Milk, how grand the tree is. Maria notes that he seems to like the name Milk as Alfred happily hugs his new pet. She reflects that celebrating Christmas feels like a dream, recalling her lonely childhood holidays as she watches him play. Alfred turns to her, excitedly asking what else people do for Christmas. He and his kitten look up at her with wide, sparkling eyes full of curiosity. She's stunned, realizing with a pang that Alfred has likely never had a proper holiday celebration before. Zahar quietly explains to her that they are doing this for Alfred's sake, hoping to make some fun memories for him. Alfred waves as he runs ahead, and Maria calls out that they are coming. She and Alfred share a bright, happy moment while Zahar watches them from behind. He looks on, momentarily speechless at the heartwarming scene. The three of them, along with the dark-haired man, walk together down the street. Zahar asks Alfred if there's anything he wants. Alfred shyly hesitates, hiding behind Maria. Spotting a candy shop, Maria smiles, thinking she knows what he wants and finding him adorable. To her surprise, he says he wants Maria to pick out some clothes for him. The men look confused, but Zahar understands and agrees to his son's request. After seeing Alfred in several cute outfits, Maria gets flustered, declaring she can't possibly choose just one. She asks if they can buy all of the clothes, and Zahar sighs that it can't be helped. A defeated Zahar sighs, while triumphant Maria laughs with glee. Maria tells a blonde man she wants to visit a shop, and he kindly agrees. She giggles happily, holding up a large, cat-eared lollipop. As Maria walks away, a shadowy hand suddenly reaches out to grab her. Her attacker, a rugged man with face tattoos, snarls, "Found you." He angrily demands to know what's happening with the murder request she made. A close-up shows her terror as he repeats his question about a murder request. Pinned to the wall, she insists he's mistaken, but he claims she made the request. He accuses her of disappearing after setting up the job, leaving her stunned and confused. Maria fiercely denies his accusations, yelling that he's completely wrong. He holds up a photo of Alfred, telling her to stop playing dumb. "Didn't you want this kid dead?" he asks, leaving Maria utterly speechless. The man grins, taunting her that he remembers her face perfectly. In a flashback, a hooded woman presents Alfred's photo, ordering two men to kill him. The mysterious woman pays them, instructing them to leave no loose ends. When a man complains the payment is small, she calls it a down payment, promising more upon success. The man then leads the cloaked woman away to finalize their dark deal. In a different memory, the original Maria complains about her husband and his childlessness. Her hired thug agrees, remarking it's better to get rid of annoyances. The flashback ends with the original Maria flirting with the man, as the scene returns to him grabbing the current Maria. Horrified, Maria covers her mouth as she starts to understand the truth. She realizes with dread that the original Maria had requested Alfred's murder. Back in the present, she looks up at her captor, still trying to process the revelation. He tells her to keep the money, but demands a huge reward for his trouble. She desperately agrees. She screams for him to cancel it, but he clamps a hand over her mouth. He looks down, Perplexed by her sudden change of heart, he effortlessly throws the unconscious Maria over his shoulder and walks away. Meanwhile, Zahar waits inside a shop, glancing at the clock. He and Alfred stand together as he wonders where she could have gone. Alfred worries that Maria is lost and urges his father to go find her. Admitting he's also worried, Zahar asks Alfred if they should look for her, and the boy agrees. Outside on the street, Alfred calls for Maria while Zahar looks on with concern. Zahar asks a vendor if he's seen a silver-haired woman, but the man says no. He thanks the man and turns away as a worried Alfred watches. Suddenly, Alfred spots the dropped lollipop, picks it up, and realizes something is terribly wrong. The scene shifts to a rundown, ominous house in a desolate area. Maria awakens, tied up on a dirty floor, wondering where she is. Her captor appears, mockingly asking if she's awake and if the place brings back memories. She asks what he's going to do, and he muses about selling her off to the highest bidder. When he demands to know her family for a ransom, she lies that she is poor. He scoffs at her lie, grabbing her chin and threatening to just get rid of her. Back in the city, Alfred stares down at the abandoned lollipop. He remembers seeing the candy in a shop, and Maria noticing his longing gaze. He clutches the candy, realizing Maria had gone to buy it just for him. Zahar asks what's wrong, but Alfred can't explain his psychic premonition to his father. Saying it's nothing, Alfred suddenly feels Maria is nearby and runs off, calling her name. He bumps into a man, apologizing before overhearing him say that a certain woman was finally found. Seeing a woman with silver hair from behind, Alfred wonders if the man was talking about Maria. He panics as the man walks away, torn over whether he should follow. Alfred fondly remembers Maria's kind smile and reassuring gesture. Resolved to help, Alfred runs after the man, but is suddenly grabbed and lifted into the air. The man wonders where Alfred is going as he tries to flee to his hideout. Alfred overhears, realizing Maria must be there. Annoyed by the persistent child clinging to his leg, the man wonders what to do. The man yells in frustration as Alfred hangs on tight, clutching the lollipop. With a determined wink, Alfred declares, "Take that," and jabs the man's leg with the lollipop stick. Ugh, the man stumbles back as Alfred falls, just as Zahar arrives, asking if he's okay. The man angrily tells him to control his kid. Zahar worriedly asks if Alfred is hurt, but the boy insists he's fine as the man walks away. Alfred points to the man's pocket, revealing the candy. He lies to his father, claiming the man took it from him. Zahar questions why the man would steal candy, while a nervous Alfred worries his lie will be exposed. Furious, Zahar declares that stealing from a child is an unforgivable act. "Let's get it back," Zahar exclaims, as a determined Alfred clenches his fists in agreement. They follow the man to a desolate, foggy hideout, observing him from a distance. Zahar notes that the man is cautiously scanning his surroundings as he enters the dilapidated area. Alfred looks on anxiously while Zahar maintains a focused, serious expression. Zahar kneels, telling Alfred the situation is too dangerous and instructing him to hide nearby. Alfred peeks out from the bushes as Zahar confidently strides towards the hideout alone. Crash Zahar kicks down the door, revealing Maria tied up inside. Startled, the man demands to know what's happening, but Zahar accuses him of being followed and demands he return the stolen candy. Pinning the man against a post, Zahar says he has one more question. He's looking for a silver-haired woman. The man denies knowing anything, but Zahar presses him, asking what his relationship is to her. Ack. Zahar swiftly draws a dagger and holds it to the man's throat. Looming over his captive, Zahar menacingly demands, "Where's my wife?" Meanwhile, the lead captor gives Maria an ultimatum: reveal her identity or be sold. She clenches her jaw and defiantly shouts that she refuses both options. "You bitch," the captor snarls, wincing after she bites his hand, his expression turning menacing. Finding her resistance annoying, he decides to kill her instead of selling her alive. He grabs her hair, sneering that he'll find something useful from her corpse as she struggles helplessly. Zahar bursts in, calling Maria's name and rushing to her side when he sees the danger. Seeing Zahar, the first man points out the other captors. Zahar immediately springs into action. Maria listens to the brutal sounds of the fight just out of view. Standing over the defeated men, Zahar sternly repeats his demand, "Give me back my wife." In the aftermath of the fight, the hideout is in shambles, with unconscious thugs littering the floor. Suddenly, the main captor grabs Maria, holding a knife to her throat and yelling, "Don't move." As the captor taunts Zahar, a horrified Alfred peeks through a broken door, seeing them both in peril. Remembering his father's order to hide, Alfred resolves that he's the only one who can help now. His face set with grim determination, Alfred knows what he must do. He scrambles around the outside of the building, desperately trying to find a way back inside. Alfred charges in and bites the captor's leg, shouting, "Let go of Maria." Ugh. The captor furiously kicks the small boy away. As the man raises his knife to stab Alfred, Maria throws herself in front of the boy, taking the blade in her back. Alfred stares up in shock as Maria stands over him, shielding him from the fatal blow. Tears welling in his eyes, Alfred screams her name as blood splatters the air. He cries out again as Maria collapses onto him, the bloody knife protruding from her back. Alfred touches her wound, looking at his own blood-covered hand in utter horror. Zahar rushes to them, his face a mask of shock as he removes his coat. They both kneel beside her, realizing she's bleeding badly as Zahar fears the worst. Zahar gently lifts Maria into his arms and screams for a doctor as a crying Alfred follows close behind. Maria lies limp and unconscious, a trickle of blood escaping from her lips. A beautiful, dreamlike expanse of water is filled with floating flowers. In a vibrant meadow, the silver-haired woman smiles with pure joy. She looks upon the sunlit field of flowers, thinking it's beautiful. Mother, in the blurry field of flowers, she wonders if she heard something. With a wink, she dismisses the sound, turning away. Believing it's her imagination, she resolves to reach the other side. Her hand reaches out toward the endless field of flowers. She moves forward through a shower of sparkling light. Startled, she realizes she recognizes the voice calling out. Across the field, she sees a small boy, Alfred, crying. She calls out his name as he continues to weep. Alfred cries desperately, "I don't want to die." As he calls for his mother, a voice asks if he's calling for her. Back in reality, Alfred clutches the unconscious Maria's arm, crying. A doctor gravely informs Zahar that Maria's condition is critical. Crying, Alfred clutches her hand, pleading for her to wake up and be his mother. He lays his head on her chest, calling her Mom through his tears. A single tear escapes from Maria's closed eye. In the flower-filled dreamscape, Maria stands with a determined expression. Alfred is shown crying alone under a somber, rainy sky. Her voice seems to echo across the dreamscape, calling for Alfred. Alfred lies curled up in the field of flowers, seemingly giving up. Maria's eyes begin to flutter open. Alfred gasps, "Mom," as he sees her waking up, Zahar looking on in shock. Reaching for him from a bed of flowers, she awakens as he asks, "Mom." Alfred continues to cry, overcome with emotion and relief. Exhausted, Alfred falls asleep peacefully on her chest. Zahar watches over them, gently stroking his sleeping son's hair. He pulls them both into a tight embrace, leaving a stunned Maria blushing. Her eyes widen in complete surprise at his sudden embrace. Overcome with relief, Zahar whispers, "Thank God." He holds her close, admitting he thought she was never going to wake up. Held tightly in his arms, she looks up at him, speechless. She thinks of Zahar, realizing her near-death experience must have reminded him of his late wife. Back in the room, she softly apologizes for making everyone worry. Later, Zahar helps a recovering Maria with her shawl as Alfred beams up at her. Exhausted, she thinks to herself how difficult even walking has become. Alfred suggests daily walks, but as she agrees, she stumbles in pain. Zahar suggests calling the doctor, but Maria insists she's fine. Maria reassures a worried Alfred that she'll be better soon, and he agrees. He happily makes her promise she won't take too long to recover. They seal their promise with a pinky swear. Alfred excitedly runs off to training, calling out, "See you later, Mom." Waving goodbye, she is overwhelmed with happiness. In a memory, Alfred holds her hand, vowing to become strong for her. Crying with joy, Maria realizes she has successfully avoided her death flag. As they watch Alfred train, Zahar remarks that children grow up so fast. Zahar observes that Alfred has changed since she arrived, now willing to risk his life for others. Maria smiles warmly, telling Zahar she believes Alfred was always a kind and strong kid. Blushing, Zahar sincerely thanks her. Maria admits she has been waiting to ask something. He asks why she was kidnapped. She smiles innocently. Panicked, she can't reveal the original Maria's plan, so she starts lying about her kidnapping. She claims she was taken after making a fuss. He offers his sympathy. Zahar grimly notes the kidnapper's persistence. She promises to be careful, secretly vowing to uncover the original Maria's misdeeds. Zahar acknowledges she risked her life for Alfred. Sitting together on the balcony, he sincerely thanks her again. She beams happily, surrounded by flowers. Zahar considers inviting her to an upcoming tea party. His thoughtfulness leaves her blushing. She suddenly interrupts, asking if Prince Carlos will attend the party. She recalls that Alfred's conflict with Carlos began at this very party, leading to his ruin. Determined to prevent this, she decides she must attend the party. She watches Alfred train, proud of his newfound confidence. Alfred stands with his practice sword, looking puzzled. Zahar turns his gaze towards an ornate doorway. The butler announces his carriage is ready. Zahar sighs, knowing it's time. Two men nearby notice that Duke Zahar seems distracted. The scene shifts to a beautiful, sunlit balcony. Arriving at the party, Alfred and Maria marvel at the beautiful flowers. A man with tied-back, reddish-brown hair is identified as Count Noir. Zahar greets Count Noir, who has a young daughter with him. Count Noir smiles warmly at the reunion. Zahar asks about the girl, and the Count introduces his daughter, Anne. Anne gives a graceful, polite curtsy. Introducing herself as Anne Noir, she notes she's never met Alfred. Maria looks on, utterly shocked. Gushing, Maria and the Count are overwhelmed by Anne's cuteness. As Maria fawns over Anne, a shy Alfred looks on. A blushing Alfred introduces himself as Alfred Brown. Anne rewards him with a kind, sweet smile. Alfred excitedly realizes Anne looks just like the princess in his favorite book. Zahar encourages the two children to become friends. With Maria's support, Alfred eagerly agrees. Alfred happily runs off to play with Anne. Zahar looks to Maria, who simply agrees to let them go. The party is in full swing. With guests mingling, bombarded with compliments, Maria forces an awkward smile. Overwhelmed and looking for an escape, she decides to go check on the children. Making her exit, she hurries away from the chattering group, calling her name. Finally, alone in a hallway, she sighs with relief. Meanwhile, Alfred and Anne happily read a book together. He points to the princess in the book, saying it looks just like her. The two sit side by side on a bench, absorbed in the storybook. Maria watches them from afar, touched by the adorable sight. Suddenly, a red-haired boy in a formal uniform appears, asking where they were. The boy smirks with an air of superiority. He holds his smug grin, clearly looking for trouble. The red-haired boy proudly offers to give a special look at his horse. Anne asks if Alfred can come along with them, surprising the boy. She looks on with a hopeful, sweet smile. Prompted by Anne, a blushing Alfred timidly asks if he can see the horses too. Annoyed, the red-haired boy reluctantly agrees. Anne and Alfred look at each other with delight. Beaming, they celebrate their shared excitement with sparkling eyes. Gritting his teeth, the boy curses, thinking he wanted to be alone with Anne. Maria watches them, believing it's best for adults not to get involved in children's quarrels. Deciding not to meddle, she turns to go back to the party. Two stable hands lead out a white horse and a black horse. The red-haired boy proudly presents his two horses. Whoa! Alfred and Anne gaze at the beautiful horses in amazement. The boy watches with a smug look as the others excitedly approach the horses. A stable hand struggles to control the agitated black horse, telling it to calm down. With a confident smirk, the red-haired boy calls out to Alfred. He offers to lend the wild black horse to a stunned Alfred. The boy continues to grin smugly at a nervous-looking Alfred. He internally taunts Alfred for being scared of a horse, calling it shameful in front of Anne. The boy then offers his hand to Anne, saying she will ride with him. As Anne agrees, a stable hand lifts a terrified Alfred onto the black horse. The stable hand announces, "Here we go," as the horse's eyes flash menacingly. Whoa! The horse rears violently, and Alfred screams for help as a man rushes to catch him. Anne gasps in shock while the red-haired boy smirks, finding Alfred's terror amusing. A stable hand lifts the frightened boy off the bucking horse. A man asks if Alfred is hurt, and he nervously replies that he's fine, thinking, "Oh no." The man explains, the horse gets violent when hungry, and he should have fed it carrots earlier. Alfred's eyes widen as he spots a carrot sticking out of the man's pouch. A stable hand struggles to get the unruly horse under control. The horse breaks free from the stable hand's grasp and bolts away. Yeah! The horse charges directly at the other two children. The boy shields Anne, yelling, "Don't come here." Alfred pulls out the carrot and yells, "Horse," to get its attention. He bravely offers the carrot to the charging horse, which stops dead in its tracks. Pack, the horse calmly eats the carrot right out of Alfred's hand. Alfred happily pets the now docile horse, while the other two children stare in disbelief. Anne runs towards a surprised Alfred, exclaiming how amazing he is. Alfred looks down, blushing at the praise. Anne takes his hands and tells him he's very brave. The red-haired boy scoffs, pointing out how scared Alfred was just a moment ago. Anne retorts that he, Carlos, was scared too. He furiously denies it. She tells Carlos he should thank Alfred for saving his life, but he refuses. The three children stand in a tense confrontation. Anne happily suggests they make up with a friendly handshake. Alfred looks up and then beams with a joyful smile. The three children stand together under Anne's cheerful gaze, their conflict seemingly resolved.